Luckiest is, and always will be, a really special song to me. She came over to work on a song we wrote like the week before. I don't even remember what it was, but she came over to track the vocals for it. And she started singing me this melody right here, this.
If I never met you, I'd never know I'm missing everything. And I'm not healing, 'cause I know the feeling when you're with me.
And she didn't have any instruments behind it. She just had these like voice memos on her phone. And I remember sitting there listening to these melodies going, okay, these are so, so good. And I went over to the upright piano here in the studio and just started playing chords behind her. And she just happened to be in the key of A, like perfectly. And then ultimately we wrote the song to it. And that day one demo still to this day brings chills to all of us. And it honestly sat on my hard drive for over a year before we felt like it was the right time to actually release it. And it's funny because I had tracked that original piano with Keyscape, and Keyscape 99% of the time works and it's perfect. But there was something happening that it just wasn't connecting with me. It didn't feel right. So I ended up having a real grand piano tracked by Ben Alleman down in New Orleans. And he tracked the grand piano in his space. And he did something really unique, which really helped out the production. So he tracked the stereo pianos, just a left and a right. And there's just something about having the real human element at the piano that made it pop for me when we got to the mix stage. But what Ben did was he tracked the bass notes, just the left hand essentially, separately for me. So together, you just have this massive sounding grand piano. So here it is in context.
Hello, old friend, how have you been?
Just piano and vocal.
It's been so many years, I don't even know where to begin.
So right at that moment, we started to bring in just some textures to help feel like the song keeps moving. And we actually brought in pump organ, which comes in right here. Here it is with the piano. Which gets us to chorus
He says I
one.
never lost one the way I loved you, baby. You really screwed it up for me.
So I brought in a Juno, just to kind of create some stereo image there. And then just a little like plucky synth.
The man who gets your heart is the luckiest man alive.
As soon as we wrote this song, I think I even had them done a couple weeks after we wrote it, but Kara Fox did the strings for me. She does a lot of string arrangements for me. Beyond the piano being the lead instrument of the song, I wanted the string arrangement to be a focus as well. I bring Kara in at that turnaround going into the second verse right here. And you'll see, as the song progresses, I add more cellos, more strings, more elements to try and help you make sure you feel like you're still moving, but also not getting in the way of the piano vocal. That was the essence of the original demo. So what's interesting is as we got through verse 2, right, we added an element of movement. We brought in acoustic guitars right here, which were Todd Lombardo. All right, so as the piano's playing those legato chords, this makes you feel like you're still moving. Add the cellos in. But what's interesting is when we got to chorus 2, we didn't want to lose the listener. So we were trying to figure out ways to make that chorus keep you engaged, make you feel like you're still moving along without, again, getting in the way of the essence of the song. So we ended up tracking a cajon, which Mark Campbell did for me. and it sounds like this, and it's super rolled off, right? There's like no presence to it whatsoever. It's all it's doing. It's just this like low pulse. But in context,
We had no time, his past I
just kind of keeps you moving.
is the luckiest man alive.
Which then finally gets us to the moment that was the most special to both Jackie and I. We wrote the bridge last. We had finished the verses and the choruses, and then we decided it needed a bridge. And she had this melody that she was singing. And I remember I had had this progression written out for a while. I really wanted to use it for something, but it needed the right melody, and Jackie just had it. And this was I had had it written out on keys, and this is ultimately what it was. And as Jackie was singing the melody, I literally just had this big grin on my face. I was like, it's literally, like it works. I've had this progression written for like a year and a half, and she had already had this melody, and together they sound like this.
Oh, I think the hardest part is knowing that until your heart is bandaged from the damage, you'll stay stuck thinking that it's me you're missing, when really you're the one who's missing who you used to be. Oh, it's not me.
And the funny thing is, as we were finishing this song up, production-wise, which was, again, like a year after we wrote it, I was in the middle of working on some film trailers. So my mind was in this like big cinematic scoring moment. And I remember I spent a day building out this beautiful string arrangement. And I used a ton of Spitfire. I also had Kara Fox's real cellos, but I built it all around that core structure. And I ended up building this out right here. And I was hesitant to send it at first because I was like, is it too much? Is it too cinematic? Or does it feel right for the song? And this is how it started. Luckily, at the end, Jackie loved it. So we knew we were gonna keep that. And then what's really cool about what's happening there, while all those strings are happening, there's this beautiful acoustic guitar and cello moment happening behind it. So I've got Todd Lombardo again, he laid these acoustics down for me. And if you just solo the acoustic guitars and Kara's cellos, it's like this whole other song, but they work perfectly together. So there's just all these amazing moments happening at once, and then in context, it sounds like this.
Oh, I think the hardest part is knowing that until your heart is bandaged from the damage, you'll stay stuck.
Let's look look into the track Luckiest by Jackie Castro. Be sure to follow Jackie on socials at @the Jackie Castro and listen to our full song anywhere you stream music.